Can you hear me? All right. So big shoes to fill. After such two amazing women here, big in the content world, in journalism, and this is so not fair, right? I'm having to come in after them, a boring techie. So anyway, we're going to be talking about chatbot strategy or AI strategy. What is it that enterprises really need, right? So I'm going to start with a story. Two men walk into a bar, and guess who's bartending? A chatbot, right? One of them orders a double shot of Jack Daniels. The other one asks about Mary. And guess what? Both of them get drinks. So the guy who ordered for Jack gets his whiskey, and the other one gets a Bloody Mary, right? So, but still, having said that, chatbots are a need of the hour. There's no denying that, right? So it's raining chatbots. Everyone seems to be talking about it because of its obvious benefits. So you have a huge, if you're an enterprise, you have a huge cost benefit when you implement a chatbot. And you know, chatbots don't ask for raise. Chatbots can, you know, give awesome customer experience so that you don't end up waiting for hours on a phone as a user, as a customer, to get a response from your operators, right? But is that all? Aren't chatbots actually really just an interface, you know? When you are considering just a chatbot, is that enough, or should you be considering it as part of a deeper AI strategy, right? And when I say deeper, I'm just going to list down a few points that I think are going to be very critical when it comes to your chatbot strategy being part of an AI strategy and not in isolation. Not just, you know, you want to put up a chatbot out there, so you put something out there, right? So one of the most critical aspects of that is data, right? So typically, you know, when you hear about chatbots, all you hear is, you know, there are keywords. If any of these keywords feature, you found out an intent, you were able to classify an intent, and then you're able to send out a scripted response that you've set and prepared earlier, right? But is that enough, or should you be looking at the data, all of it, right? So you have data primarily comes as structured and unstructured data, right? So you have structured data, which is your ERPs, CRM, whatever, HRMS, and all the alphabets, right? Which is basically data in a form, in a specific format that's available and that's consumed by people within those departments, right? But more importantly, there is a bigger chunk of data, which is unstructured data. You know, unstructured data is all the data like your emails, your policy documents, your product documents, your legal documents, what have you, right? Across an organization, there is a lot of data that's flowing. Even your collaborative platforms like Skype or Slack, or you know, so many of them out there, right? So there's a lot of information and there's a lot of text flowing. Just to give you an idea of that, of the data, if you see the pink portion is the unstructured data, right? And this includes, like I said, email communication, or all the communication on the floor, plus social media, you know, and what they're talking about your company out there. And that is growing at a very, very fast pace. So if you see today at 2017, the amount of unstructured data is something like 15,000 exabytes. Anybody have any idea what an exabyte is? So yeah, I'm sure some techies would know, it's 10 raised to the power of 18 bytes. But to put it in perspective, 1 exabyte is something like 250 million DVDs, right? So that's 1 exabyte. So basically, if you were to take a whole train, you know, that you see, and you fill it up with DVDs, so that's 1 exabyte of data. So there's 15,000 of those that's been created year on year this year, and by 2020, it's going to go up all the way to around 40,000 exabytes of data, right? So there is a lot of data available there. When you're considering a strategy for your company, are you considering that, or is that totally left out, or are you just looking at scripted responses? And just to give you a fair idea, a little bit more, talking about data, and this is the last part I'm going to talk about data, is that, so you have third-party data, like, which is out there, like government data, you know, the industrial data. Then you have data, social data, like whatever's on your feeds, like social media, Twitter, etc. You also have the user data, and also you have the operations data that you generate internally, right? So, and I'm not even going into the IoTs, the sensors, and everything is pushing a lot of data out there, right? So, data, right? The second most important thing that's going to come when you're considering a strategy, you know, you want your chatbot to be really good, is going to be the algos, right? Because it's going to be a war of algorithms. It's going to be how good your algorithms are, and how many and what kind of algorithms you have to be able to understand all the data that we spoke about, right? So that is going to be very critical when it comes to your strategy, when it comes to your AI strategy. And this is really important, right? So who are the stakeholders? Who are the beneficiaries? What's in it for me, right? So today, when you consider in silos, when you consider a chatbot, let's say I want to put up, you know, people come and tell me I want a chatbot for my customer care, right? Does it really end there, or can you do more with that? So we are talking right now. We are working with a automobile manufacturer who wants the customer engagement to even sometimes lead or be taken forward by the R&D department, right? So they want, because you can get a lot of benefit when the R&D gets real-time feedback from the end users, from the customers, and is able to provide information and make it, you know, because there's a lot of technology that goes into making a car, right? And if that technology could be shared, you could give a much greater customer experience than just somebody from a service station answering a phone call, right? Similarly, in HR, within HR also, let's say that you've churned all the data to be able to help your employees access information, transact, etc. But can that data, that information that you have about your company, about your policies, be also used as a hiring assistant, right? So let's say, because now you know the employee, what they're asking, you know what employees' skill sets are required at different level. Now, when you're hiring, can you churn out that data again, make it reusable, so that it can match the resumes, it can rank the resumes, you know, the applications to the KRA that you need, and it can send out email or communicate with the candidates automatically, you know, and then when the candidate asks any question also about the company, about the reporting structure or whatever he wants to know, he can talk to a chatbot, get that clarified. And also, and if both parties are still interested, they can actually go ahead and schedule an interview. So the same set of data could be used for so many functions, right? So chatbot strategy or AI strategy, right? And again, of course, it should be across, you know, this information should be made available to all the stakeholders in whichever platform they are comfortable with. You don't have to create a new platform for that. You know, it could be on messengers, it could be on your collaborative platform, it could be on the intranet, for example, and it should be made available not just as a chat. And even if it's chat, can it be preemptive chat? Like, you know, let's say the marketing department, you've done some analysis using the NLP algorithms on data, on your competitor or your client data, prospect data, and if someone from the marketing team is scheduled to go meet that person, shouldn't the bot automatically tell you that, hey, you seem to be meeting Satya from Microsoft, do you want to know a little bit more about him, about his hobbies, because we've already got a dossier on Microsoft and its top management. So that's the kind of interactions that's possible when you consider your chatbot as part of an AI strategy. So like I said, so any information you know, should be available, should be dispersed in the most convenient way possible. It should ideally be able to terminate it or take it into a transaction, which means that not only should I know how many leaves do I have balanced when I'm asking my HR help desk, but I should also be able to know, I should also be able to apply for that leave, you know, using artificial intelligence. And build it more interactive. It should be able to support, you know, and take it, make it more conversational, so that you can do actually a lot more with that kind of interface. So the last part which I'd like to cover here is any artificial intelligence system, because what you're trying to do is transfer the intelligence that we have evolved into so far, right, into machines, right? So there will always be a component that will be required where that we will talk about, that where humans will have to be in the loop, right? Because if that doesn't happen, then we will be taken over, right? So Does it consider that? And are your bots or are your AI systems tuned to listening to that conversation and learning from that and evolving from that, right? So if you see here in the HR help desk use case, which I spoke about, the employees approach the organization with their queries, get it answered, and from the databases. But if it's not available there, if you see the system should be intelligent enough to be able to transfer or escalate that to the HR, to the human being, and then keep on listening to that conversation and learning from that experience. So for this part, I'd like to, there's one very critical part about AI being part of your company strategy, and for that, I'd like to bring on my partner and co-founder, Sanjeev Nair.
Thanks, Animesh. Can everybody hear me? I need the clicker, I guess. Yeah, thanks. So cool. We've heard a lot about the overwhelming data challenge that we have in front of us as enterprises. How are we going to deal with all of it? We've understood how we have technology that's being built, which is really helping manage the data across our enterprise ecosystem, right? But at the end of it all, once you build this, how does it get consumed by the user? And is what is very important. And I think that is a key part of the whole puzzle here, which is really going to be the make or break for every enterprise owner, startup owner, or whoever else is trying to build this, who's available in this room, right? So moving on to the future of the user experience on this one. Let's take an example. So primarily what's going to define the success of any AI implementation is going to be the understanding capabilities that we build into it. Okay, I need to really press hard on this one. Okay. So let's take a look at these three conversations. Switching back to the HR use case, suppose I've implemented an AI solution in the company where my employees can ask any question, and somebody asks this. Does anybody see any difference in the questions asked here? I guess we can easily say that all of us understand that all these three statements mean the same thing, right? But now, how does a machine understand that? Okay, just give me a second. I'm dealing with some. Can anybody push this back one? All right, I think I got this. So how does a machine understand that the term a day off is the same thing as a leave, right? So I'm sure people in this space will say, hey, we can just quickly write a definition and have a dictionary and it'll get sorted. I said, okay, that's cool. But how many of these definitions are you going to write, right? Imagine an industry which is dealing across a global, multiple products, services across the globe, various kind of customers. You can't write dictionaries and meanings for each and every term that is only unique to your business. And think about how this is going to scale across it. You have a huge challenge. And this is where we look at the core need of moving beyond these things. We have to move to a level wherein we get to machine comprehension, right? And which is where, when I go back to the first instance that when Animesh said that two people walk into a bar and they ask for, Mary, you don't get a Bloody Mary, but you'll get some information, hey, Mary's just gone out for, a smoke or something. And that is the true experience that we need to get to, right? So coming back to the initial question of I need a day off. In today's world, if you look at the chatbots that we have or the AI solutions you have, which are limited, obviously, you probably get an answer like this. Please clarify your query, because a day off is not mapped to something. If you had an actually well thought out AI strategy, you would actually answer this query with this. You would actually give the user options in terms of what is it. You have basically mapping into the policies or the documentation or the data that you have in the backend. It will give the user a relevant options to choose from. And further on, once the user selects an option, you will go and you will actually pick out, you know the user because of maybe an Active Directory integration you've done, you know how many leaves are left in balance, and the conversation is meaningful. It's, and there is a utility to it, and at the end of it all, everybody's quite happy that, hey, this works well, I got what I wanted, enterprise is cool because the employees got what is wanted, and that's how this is going to scale, right? Okay, I'm really sorry, I need to, okay. So what's happening here? So eventually, we need to take AI, we need to take the data available. We have the challenge of really dealing with real-time data that is changing, and as we earlier pointed out, humongous amounts of it growing exponentially, and that is what is going to drive companies to be relevant in 2020 and above, for example, right? And this is something that does not require domain expertise from outside. You have this expertise within your companies. You have people who know the best way that your businesses work, the intricacies of every workflow, every function, right? If any kind of process in a large enterprise, only the guys who are running the process can add value to it, but you need to understand that it is now no longer a matter of interactive interfaces alone, it's about communicative interfaces that you have, right? And you just need to have your business domain expert work with great interaction designers who can create these user journeys for across every function of the business that you want to implement in. And that is when you will really have a strong AI strategy-driven model here. I guess I'll call Animesh back on to take on the next thing here. He'll talk a bit about where we come from, and that's it.
Yeah,
thank you.
So all this, so we're not, so as you would see that, even though we're both engineers, we're not your typical techies. We learned all this stuff in our experience in our years at NLP Bots at Light Information Systems, where we work and we put in a lot of effort into understanding this because, and that's the reason why we can come here and pretty much tell you what you need to be looking at in this era, because we've been at it for the last 5 years, where when we started, NLP was neuro-linguistic programming. It wasn't even natural language processing. And yeah, we go to market, we work with SIs and ITS companies, and where we are providing them with these advanced APIs to be able to understand their data and really empower these organizations, their clients. And so in all likelihood, the next time you're hiring someone or being hired, let me tell you, it'll be artificial intelligence that'll be doing it. Or the next time you're talking to your telecom operator, or you want your washing machine serviced. So in all probability, AI is going to be helping you with those with that kind of technology. And yeah, and we've had our share of the limelight as well. So thank you for bearing with us, and thank you for being here.